Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement. Your no-hype source for financial advice in making informed choices about your retirement plan. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement, your live and local, St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show. I'm Jeff Lapidus, president of JBL Financial Services. Our offices are located in beautiful, sunny, downtown Olivet, Missouri. I am a 40-plus year veteran of the financial services area, a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager. And I'm joined this week and every single week by my terrific crew, my oldest prodigal daughter, Aaron Lapidus, who also is a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager, and Rob Markham, our life insurance and fixed annuity sales specialist. Gang, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. We help our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a written strategy, a step-by-step strategy, one that they can count on.
They even write it down?
We write it down, even. Goodness.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate. Second is to deliver a reliable stream of income, one that they can count on, so they can do all the things they'd like to do during retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their health care needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to couple with their Medicare coverage.
And then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches, or charities, whoever it might be, with Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of their money. And as their wealth managers, Aaron and I watch their money every single day to make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us the retirement coaches. Well, again, gang, good morning. Welcome so much to the show. Happy Labor Day weekend coming up for everyone. And so thanks so much for tuning in with us. There are a lot of things that we have to talk about today. What's more important is what's on your mind. Our phone lines are open, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. That's how you can keep in touch with us today. But if you want to keep in touch with us during the week, what do?
Log onto our website, jblfinancial.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you can click on the Contact Us section. You can send us an email with a request for a coaching session, financial, Medicare, or both. Or if you happen to have a question during the show and that's easier for you to get it to us, we do check throughout the next 2 hours, so please let us know that way as well. Also, if you click on the lower left-hand side of the screen in the pop-up box that appears that says sign up for our monthly newsletter, we call it the Coach's Corner, and as it is September 2nd, we have a brand new newsletter.
That's right, we do. We have the September 2023 newsletter, and there's going to find some great articles in there, and the cover story is employee access to 401k plans are on the rise. More and more employers are offering Roth 401k plans as opposed to a traditional 401k plan. So that's very, very interesting. You could stuff a lot more money into a Roth 401k plan. I think it's $22,500, so that's great. And our next article is All Eyes on Earnings. And this is a great primer for, we're just going through earnings season right now, and a lot of times some phrases and sentiments get expressed that you may not necessarily understand or be familiar with. This article is going to just kind of fill in some gaps in your knowledge, and if you have any knowledge gaps, and help you keep an eye on what you should be looking for when your favorite companies report. And our next article is four key objectives of a sound retirement plan. They're definitely going to want to take a look at that article. And our last one, my favorite, time to bulk up on your emergency fund. If you've heard us talk from time to time, we're always preaching the gospel of having an emergency fund ready and accessible, depending on if something comes up, if you're planning for something, or just peace of mind. It's definitely an article you're going to want to check out.
And Erin and her staff do keep the last 6 to 8 months of those archived for your viewing, listening, and, actually reading and downloading convenience. Easy to do. Just go to our website, jblfinancial.com, and click on that Corchus Corner newsletter icon, and we're happy to send that to you by email every single month, which is great. Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. And as a reminder, all of our clients are just like you. They're our listeners. They're 55 and older. They would like to retire, or they're already tired. And as Erin mentioned, our goal is to create a game plan for them for hopefully a financially safe and fun and worry-free retirement. Well, great, babe. What's our first topic that we're going to hit while we're waiting for our text messages and phone calls?
Why don't we kick it off with a coaching session that we had with John and Sarah, the rock stars.
Woo-hoo! Let's do it.
Well, John is a lifelong sales rep for a large local company. He has accumulated $1.75 million in his 401k. His wife, Sarah, worked briefly as a nurse for about 10 years and then became a stay-at-home mom while the kids were back at home. She has an IRA of about $65,000 and a Roth IRA of $85,000. They also have $45,000 in savings at a local credit union. In total, they have $1.82 million in pre-tax savings and $85,000 in tax-free savings.
Nice. So John is about 66, just to give a little bit more information, and Sarah is 64 years old at the moment. So they had quite a few questions, as many folks do when they come in to see us for the first time. And their number one question was, do we have enough to retire? So the first part of the game plan that we want to address is income planning in retirement. And the way we start is by determining, how much does it take to run John and Sarah's life? They need about $6,000 a month after tax. We could tell really from the start that they were rock stars because they have no mortgage payments. So when we gross that $6,000 a month up for taxes, because we know that the majority of their assets are held in John's 401k that'll be fully taxable to them, we need about $7,200 a month before taxes in order to get them that $6,000 a month net. We know that John's Social Security is going to run about $2,900 per month at his normal retirement age, which he's just shy of. And Sarah, his wife, because she did not have as long of a working record as John, we suggested that most likely the spousal benefit is going to be the larger benefit in Sarah's case. So her benefit is going to be approximately 50% of John's when she reaches her normal retirement age, which will bring it to $1,450 per month. So if we subtract their Social Security benefits, which we would consider the fixed income portion of their portfolio, of their cash flow, from the $7,200, we have about a $2,850 a month deficit.
Yeah, and we also know that because of the changes in the Social Security claiming strategy laws, Sarah will be able to basically claim that maximum spousal benefit of 50% of John's only when John claims his Social Security benefit.
And also when Sarah reaches her normal retirement age. Otherwise, so for example, if John elects his benefit within the next year or so, Sarah still is going to have to wait at least 2 to 3 years in order to get the full 50% of the spousal benefit. Otherwise, it's going to be discounted at an additional 8% per year for every year she takes early and normal retirement age.
So basically what we've determined here is that when all the faucets are on, because neither of them have pensions, their Social Security benefits, they're going to be about $2,850 a month short. And, again, their priorities were pretty simple. They wanted to have a steady stream of income. They are interested in also providing for survivor needs if one of them predeceased the other, because we know that at death, either Sarah will be giving up her Social Security benefit and claiming John's, or John will basically have to give up Sarah's Social Security benefit should she predecease him, and that they would like to pass assets on to their 3 children and their 4 grandchildren. So let's do the math, shall we?
So we know that they need $2,800.50 per a month. We know we have to scale that up over a year, so that leaves us with a balance of $34,200 for the year. We know using a prudent rate of withdrawal of 4%, that leaves us with a capital requirement of $855,000.
So we know that they have more than sufficient capital to meet their income needs if they both wait until normal retirement age to take their Social Security benefit. They also have a significant amount of additional capital that we wouldn't say is required to meet their monthly income needs, because we mentioned they have over $1.8 million, and we only need about $855,000 of that in order to sustain their ongoing monthly income needs.
So do we save the Roth assets for estate planning purposes or capital expenditures? Would they feel more secure if we recreate a joint and survivor personal pension benefit to fit their cash flow needs?
So these are some additional questions that always come up once we've really determined that, as you like to say, Dad, the science behind this works, meaning they've got enough capital to meet their income needs. Now, how do we construct that capital? Of the $1.8 million, they only have about $85,000 in tax-free assets inside of that Roth account, since they've met the requirement of being over 59 and a half and having the Roth for at least 5 years. At least in my opinion, I would say instead of using the Roth to meet monthly income needs, I would say that we would want to preserve that for larger capital expenses over time to help regulate those larger budget items like a new car, exceptionally large family vacation,
a wedding.
Right, they have quite a large family. Dad, you mentioned they have some grandchildren. So, are they going to maybe be planning to assist with college education or even private school while they're in secondary education? A lot of different ways to utilize that large, relatively large tax-free bucket.
Yes, I think that's a good recommendation, and I would follow that up with, since we know that based upon their current cash flow need, their pre-tax income, which they're projecting to want to have about $7,200 a month, is well below the $90,000 10% effective tax rate bracket. So pulling money from qualified assets, those IRA accounts, probably make a lot more sense than pulling money from that Roth, especially because, as you said, they may come up with large expenditures in the future, which most of our clients actually, we find that they do, for various purposes, and then not have to invade and actually pay taxes, and maybe even have a possible negative effect on their Part B medical premiums sometimes in the future. So those are pretty good things. The other one was with the personal pension. We're in a position where what we attempt to do for most of our clients is to create a secure, if you want to call it, base of income. Social Security is one that they certainly can count on, but having a personal pension income stream is something that's very attractive to many folks. And again, what we do is we query them as to how much, if any, would they like to see, how much of that percentage that they need would they like to see of that $34,200 in their particular case. So it's, it's all good. And again, we haven't even gone into the second part, which is the Social Security planning. If Sarah is to receive the maximum Social Security benefit like we've discussed, a couple things have to happen. We know that Joe needs to have
or John,
elected
unless she got another husband in between.
Well, exactly. So John needs to have elected his Social Security benefit and is currently receiving it. And she needs to wait, again, as Aaron mentioned, until her normal retirement age, which is 67, before electing that benefit. If she doesn't, she'll be receiving a 8% per year discount from that normal benefit. And, should our friend John here decide to delay Social Security past his normal retirement age as a way to improve or increase that retirement income benefit if he predeceases her, that could certainly be a goal and an objective, and one that we would have to consider in our planning.
Well, the really cool thing here is if we do the math and say that John wants to retire this year, he still has the rest of this year and next year, so let's just call it 2 years until he exceeds his normal retirement age, which would be 67 for him. So let's say he gets to 67 in a few months. Needing $7,200 a month over a 2-year period is about $172,000, which if we add that to the $855,000 that they need ongoing once both of their Social Security benefits have been elected, they're still below. They're still at like about 1.1 million of assets, where they're still holding about 700,000 in addition to that. So we know that the great thing is that John and Sarah have a lot of choices depending upon when they retire, when they decide to elect their Social Security benefits.
Yeah, that's great. And again, that, this retirement income planning certainly is, in most cases, our beginning focus when it comes to working with folks for their financial, retirement game plan. But again, it's really a two-part focus. Number one is creating the income stream, one that they can rely on while they're both together. And then certainly the second one is the survivor planning. What happens when one predeceases the other, assuming they don't go at the same time? Do we have sufficient assets and cash flow to make that happen? And how do we structure it in a way that is most comfortable for them as we're trying to deal with these contingencies? But there's also a couple of other game plans that we're working on at the same time, right?
Yeah, one of the game plans would be long-term care game planning. So in the event that John or Sarah needs long-term care because they haven't passed away, but unfortunately they're in need of greater medical assistance than what Medicare will normally provide, we really need to determine, do they have sufficient assets for both the institutionalized and the non-institutionalized spouse, so the individual that needs care and then the spouse that unfortunately generally becomes the caregiver. We consider that, it's about $6,000 a month to be in a semi-private room if you unfortunately need skilled care. And we usually estimate, and especially in John and Sarah's case, that the non-institutionalized spouse is probably going to need about $3,000 a month. We know that sounds like a pretty large drop from the $6,000 a month that they need when they are both together, but because we've found that John and Sarah don't have a mortgage, and in many cases because individuals are accessing long-term care benefits in their late 80s and 90s, many people that join us in their 50s and 60s that have mortgages have eventually gotten rid of them over the course of the next 20 years. So we find a lot of people that are accessing long-term care do not have that additional mortgage expense. So we really are looking at lifestyle expenses. And when a spouse becomes institutionalized, usually those lifestyle expenses fall away because
not traveling as much, not going out to eat as much, the whole routine kind of gets upended to a certain degree.
Exactly, and the non-institutionalized spouse usually becomes the primary caregiver, even if, the spouse is in a assisted living or a skilled nursing facility, because they're going back and forth. So like you said, there's no travel, there's less fun, which means really we're looking at making sure that we can keep the lights on and pay all the bills for the non-institutionalized spouse. So those two numbers together reach about $9,000 per month.
And I think, again, one point that we like to emphasize with our clients is that when someone becomes chronically ill, one of the spouses, the cash flow that they're currently receiving isn't healthcare based. It's going to continue. So in this particular case, if either John or Sarah does become chronically ill, and let's assume again that this is happening, generally for most of our clients, we're seeing this into their late 80s, their Social Security benefits are not going to stop. They're not going to be modified. The income flow that we're sending them from their current retirement accounts would, in their case, be most likely required minimum distributions.
Which will probably be significantly more than what we started out sending them because they're taking less than their 4%.
Yes. And so, again, this is another form of an algebra problem where we're looking at, $9,000 a month as a bogey benefit. And then where do the cash flows that we have either fixed or variable fit into the formula? So at that point, if there is a deficit, the real question becomes, and it's one that they want to fill, we have to determine whether or not they want to go the traditional route, which is attempting to secure long-term care insurance, which is paying a premium, or if we're going to self-fund that benefit.
Right.
Go ahead, babe.
I was going to say, and generally as a benchmark for everyone listening, we recommend that it's important to strongly consider long-term care coverage to protect your assets when your liquid assets range between $200,000 and $1.5 million. So when you fall into that particular range, it makes sense to take a look at long-term care because you don't want to be in a Medicaid spend-down situation, and you might not have enough to self-fund your long-term care needs. However, once you exceed that $1.5 million, statistically, you do have the opportunity to self-fund those long-term care needs, and that really comes from, what you just said, Dad, which is all of your other income sources aren't going to stop. So if you're able to generate that, over $60,000 a year from your investments, because we're only talking about liquid investments, not your home or cars, boats, things like that that are less liquid that you'd have to sell in order to get profits from. We're talking mainly about your investable assets. You can self-fund.
Well, exactly. And also we wanted to consider here that there are other alternatives out there available to us, which are non-retirement plan options. Unfortunately, we can't have our IRAs pay directly or inside of those for premiums, but there are also non-retirement plan asset options that are out there for us. But in their particular case, we really haven't talked a lot about that with John and Sarah, so that may not be available to them, though it may be available to other folks. I was going to suggest that before we get into our fourth game plan, which is the estate planning game plan, maybe we might want to consider taking our first break of the hour, where we can also come back and get your phone calls at 314-931-5877 and texts at the 84126 on the KTRS text line.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
Oh, my gosh. How long have we known each other now?
Doesn't seem like long enough.
No, but like a year, and we immediately just kind of...
Instant bond.
Yes.
Instant bond.
And it's so much fun because every Wednesday you come into the studio and we talk about, what you're really good at, picking pizza joints.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were going to say real estate, but you're right. The pizza thing is really top-notch for me.
You're pretty good at that real estate thing, too. Yeah. And now that I can say I've experienced it firsthand because you helped my mom and dad.
Sure did.
Buy a lake house.
Yep.
They might love you more than they love me at this point.
I don't think that's possible. No one could love me more. You know that.
Well, that's probably true. But this is what everybody else can experience, too, when they work with your team at Lauren Risley Realty. Well, we love you. We love everything that Lauren Risley Realty does, and I think you guys will, too. You can learn more. Call Lauren Risley Realty at 314-775-0684. You can also email hello@laurenrisleyrealty.com.
Before you put your home on the market, before you have have to pay money fixing it up to sell it, before you have to pay real estate commissions, call me. I'm Mike Robinson with Robank Properties, and I will buy your home. Any condition, anywhere, and always as is. Call me, Mike Robinson with Robank Properties at 314-283-0867. That's 314-283-0867. You have nothing to lose when you call Robank Properties at 314-283-0867.
Hi, it's David Sherwood of the Inside Out Show and president of Sherwood's Forest on Barrett Station Road, just south of Manchester. Fall planting season is here now. We are fully stocked with the area's largest selection of evergreens, Japanese maples, magnolias, and shade trees. Choose from lilac trees, sugar maples, birch, October glory, hornbeams, and crab to provide summertime shade and great fall and spring color. At Sherwood's Forest, you'll also find hundreds of green giant arborvitae and junipers to screen thy neighbor.
And right now, get 8-inch hardy fall mums, 5 for $25.
Sherwood's Forest has been planting smiles for 45 years, so head to the forest, Sherwood's Forest at 2651 Barrett Station Road, or check out our inventory at sherwoods-forest.com or call 314-966-0028.
Home and garden showcase, making beautiful gardens come alive.
I'm Farmer Dave, and here's my good friend and owner of MasterCars Inc., Alex Rosenberger, with today's hot MasterCars Inc. deals.
Thanks, Farmer Dave. Hey, want to let everybody know that there's always a great selection of Corvettes every year, and we're always looking to buy them, too. We have excellent financing and leasing options available for us, and call us if you're selling one. We want to know about it. And not just Corvettes. We'll buy vehicles from everyday to exotic. Everything we keep in stock is AutoCheck certified, inspected, and fully serviced before it hits our inventory. We also have a great selection of Harley-Davidson motorcycles in stock. Love trading for them. We'll do some horse trading with you on any type vehicle you have. And everything you see in our inventory is hand-selected by my father and I. So we sure want you to come in or visit our website at mastercarsinc.com.
So rev that motor and point your car in the direction of MasterCars Inc. and buy or sell today. 4100 Namioki Road in Granite City, or visit MasterCarsInc.com to get more details. That's MasterCarsInc.com.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back here on the Big 550 KTRS Talk Radio St. Louis. It's 9:32 during hour number one. We'd love to hear what you're thinking about. So give us a call today, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the KTRS text line. Well, great. Prior to our break, we were talking about really the many different game plans that we provide for folks when they come in for coaching sessions. Specifically, in this case, John and Sarah. We talked about the retirement income game plan, not just for them while they were together, but also a survivor game plan. We talked about the long-term care planning game plan that we need to provide them, which includes really an income planning, again, another form of that. But there's also estate planning, right?
There is, and they have 3 children and 2 grandchildren today. Do they make the grandkids contingent beneficiaries with their kids on their traditional IRAs?
I mean, this is a great question, and this kind of leads into not just estate planning in terms of where do you want the assets to go when you're no longer with us, who do you want them to pass to, but what's the most tax-efficient way to pass those assets along to family members. With the changes to the to how required minimum distributions are taken for beneficiaries of IRA assets, if you're not a spouse, you got to take it all within 10 years, which could be a pretty significant tax burden.
Very significant.
Especially if we're looking at, even if it were to happen today with $1.8 million divided by 3 children over a 10-year period, that's going to be
$600,000
per child.
Right, and that's $60,000 a year in extra income if you took it out, and had to empty it in 10 years, took $60,000 out a year.
Especially if, when you pass away, your children could potentially be in their higher income earning years.
Prime earning years, yeah.
Right, which means you could be you could be creating a significant tax burden for them. And also, it's not, because, Dad, I'm sure you can attest to this, which is when we first sit down with individuals, usually they say, well, if the kids are getting anything, they can pay the taxes on it. But
the thinking changes.
Right, and you don't want the federal government to take up to really a third of what you've worked your entire lifetime to accumulate. You'd rather your children and potentially your grandchildren, who are going to be in lower tax brackets when you pass away, maybe it makes sense to pass them some of these IRA assets, because more of your money will be passed on to those that you love and not, diminished by taxation.
Really fun conversations to have with people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and certainly there are some other considerations that are in here. Many of our clients have special needs children, sometimes grandchildren in their family, so they are wanting to set aside certain amounts of capital to deal with creating, I think, a long-term certainty and a secure financial base for that child or grandchild.
And this is something where we would bring in other specialists to help us, especially if we're potentially looking at a special needs trust in order to protect those individuals' government assistance that's already coming in, and just create a backstop potentially from grandma and grandpa.
And it's also kind of fun to have the conversation about if we are going to include grandchildren, and they mentioned that they have a couple of them today. What happens is when we're dividing these assets up, are we dividing them? Are the grandchildren their own class of beneficiaries, or are they basically part of the family tree that they come from? So making those decisions certainly aren't easy. And as I like to say to our clients, I'm hopeful that when I leave this planet, my kids are going to be unhappy with me for two reasons. Number one is that I left. But the second thing is what I've decided. So the tax law really, sorry, honey, garbage truck there. Sometimes really what happens here is that we're in a situation that we have to.
That was a garbage truck.
No, literally it was a garbage truck that was coming from the par 3 golf course that's right behind me. So
take out the papers and the trash.
Right, must be. I was just saying it was garbage to being unhappy about all the inheritance issues.
Well, not everybody is going to be happy, and I think this gives you an opportunity, if need be, to equalize the playing field for your children and grandchildren if you feel that something's necessary. And then many of our clients do have significant and want to have significant and make charitable contributions at the time of their death. And naturally, even though they don't think about it in this way, their IRAs are really the perfect vehicle to do this, because when a 501c3, a charity, receives those proceeds, they aren't paying taxes on it, as your children or grandchildren are. So coming up with a game plan to direct where things go is certainly a fun thing to do, and obviously something that we enjoy having these conversations with our clients' attorneys as we're helping develop this part of their game plan.
And one time we were in a coaching session together, Dad, and we were discussing how a client was going to pass their assets on, and they had a few children and several grandchildren, and they were debating this very subject, which is, how are we treating everyone equally? And you said to them, it doesn't have to be equal, it just has to be fair, and you get to decide what's fair, since it's your money. And I really felt like the light bulb went off for the clients, which is things rarely are equal, but if they're fair and none of them get to know what the other one inherited, then I think it makes for a lot easier of decisions when you're making these choices for your family.
Honey, I couldn't agree more. And the reality is that, especially if you have more than one person that we're talking about here, whether they're children or grandchildren, their interests aren't the same. in most cases, their earning power isn't necessarily the same. Their marital situations may not be the same. Their family situations may not be the same. Their health situations might not be the same. So treating children equally is not always treating children fairly, or grandchildren. And so, I think what's fun here is, at least for me, is that the Internal Revenue Code really created, and the IRS created, an opportunity for, I think, our clients to really have to focus on what's going to happen, not just to their one generation, but to two. And I think that it makes sense not to ignore this opportunity. It's very doubtful, at least, I don't have a crystal ball, but to me it's very doubtful that they're going to go backwards on this and say, well, if you're a non-spouse beneficiary and you inherit an IRA, instead of having to empty it within 10 years, we'll let you take it out over your lifetime.
I would think, if anything, they would go the other way with it, and maybe chop 10 years down to 5 years at a certain point.
Right. They rarely do they want their taxes less quickly, and
right.
by they, the federal government.
Exactly. So, estate planning, again, is an important game plan that we're also involved in, but one that I kind of bypassed here earlier, and certainly is integral to many of our clients' thinking, and we're helping them very much, is with their health care, right?
Absolutely, and John is eligible for Medicare, so naturally we're going to be assisting him in finding a plan to supplement Medicare. That includes his current physicians and the lowest drug costs.
Absolutely, and depending upon when John retires, how old Sarah happens to be at that moment, if she's still under 65, we'll most likely use John's COBRA benefits as a bridge to Medicare for Sarah, and then when she reaches 65, we can transition her over to Medicare benefits. And the really nice thing here is being able to integrate all of these expenses into one game plan, because we know that if Sarah is going to need COBRA, even for a protracted amount of time, that could increase, and in fact it will increase their income need. So it'll be their decision, are we increasing that $2,850 a month by whatever Sarah's COBRA premium is until she transitions to Medicare, or have they decided they're going to use some of their savings that they've accumulated? I think they had about $85,000 of after-tax savings, or they may be going to dip into that bucket as a way to pay for their COBRA premiums. But being able to anticipate all of those expenses is an important part of a long-term strategy.
And, doing all this on our electronic whiteboard, playing all the what-if strategies, having them down and actually being able to save this information really is truly the basis for their game plan. And we're able to go back and refer this to them. And maybe more importantly is go through all the questions. The what if we do this? What if we put off Social Security? What if we elect it early? What if we become disabled? Really being able to put those cash flows in front of them and have them experience that usually brings a smile, because we know that our clients, and I think anybody, the more information that you have available to you, the better decisions that you make. And frankly, in entering this phase of your life, I think you're a little bit more, in most cases, a little more comfortable. You understand what the options are. We're able to play them out in front of you. You can think your way through, ask questions about those. And then really, as depending on how quickly this is going to happen, what we're able to then do is begin to lay the foundation for, as I like to call it, the yellow brick road, so that when you do decide that you do want to retire, either one or both of you at the same time or differently, etc., you can do it confidently. And that's really what the big deal is here, right?
That's right.
And it's fun.
It's always fun.
It's always fun for us. It's great. Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
We have one text. And
sounds great.
And our texter writes, "Good morning. Early next year, I have to begin taking required minimum distributions from my IRA account. I've heard this will affect my Social Security benefits. Is this true?"
So The only way in which taking required minimum distributions would impact your Social Security benefits is on taxation of your Social Security. So depending upon if you're married or not, you have, it's not an income limitation, they're just income threshold, which you'll meet. And if you meet those, you have tax obligations for your Social Security. So, Rob, if the texter, let's just use the married filing jointly options.
If he's married filing jointly, it's all taxable income plus half your Social Security benefit. If that is less than $32,000, you don't owe any tax on your Social Security.
So you can see in the calculation we're adding a required minimum distribution, which if you hadn't been taking them in the past, or you've been taking, for example, we talked about how John and Sarah, when they first start taking distributions from their retirement accounts, it's going to be less than 4%. When you reach 73 years old, you're required to take about 4% from your retirement accounts in order to meet your required minimum distribution obligation, so that could increase your taxable income in retirement. So if you're under that first threshold, your Social Security isn't taxable. If you exceed that, then
if you're past $32,000 and between $44,000, between 32 and 44, then 50% of your Social Security is taxable at your tax rate. Anything above $44,000 and 85% of your Social Security will be taxable at your tax rate. Now, our texter didn't specify if this account was a traditional or a Roth. If it's a Roth, then that wouldn't go towards his taxable income. So
right, and
a little bit of a nuance there.
Right. But because he mentioned required minimum distributions, we probably just assumed that it was traditional, since if you own the Roth, you don't have to take...
Right, they just changed that. You
don't have to take required minimum distributions from Roth accounts if you are the owner of that account, so that wouldn't impact your taxable income. So the only way, long story short, that you're going to see an impact in your Social Security benefit from required minimum distributions if that changes the taxation of your Social Security. It doesn't impact the benefit itself.
And our next texter writes, could you please repeat your office phone number? I need to talk to you guys. Thank you.
We would love to do that. 314-863-0008. Or you can always send us an email, Erin, ERIN, at jblfinancial.com.
I was going to give them the radio show number and tell them to call right. Like when I read that quickly, I was just like, okay, sure. Get
call
that right out to you.
She'd like a private conversation. So,
certainly, or you could also go to our website and hit the Contact Us section, give us your information, and our staff will be very happy to reach out and contact you and arrange for a coaching session. They're fun. They're free. They're at our offices in Olivet, which is a lot of fun. Free parking, best coffee in town. We'd love to hear from you. Let me just repeat that phone number again if I can, 314-863-0008.
And with that, I think we're going to take our second break of the hour, so don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
Summer is here, and so are all of those bugs. Don't let them make their home inside yours. Blue Chip Pest Control provides a variety of pest control services, including residential pest control, commercial pest control, wildlife removal, and mosquito treatments. So call 636-394-6400 or go online to stlbugs.com.
Are you ready for changing temperatures? The transition between seasons is the perfect time to schedule a maintenance check for your heating and cooling system. Extend the life and efficiency of your HVAC equipment and enjoy year-round comfort with help from Viviano Heating and Air, proud distributor of Trane products. Homeowners throughout the Metro East turn to Viviano for high-quality, reliable service. Give them a call or find them on their website, vivianoair.com. It's vivianoair.com. It's hard to stop a train.
Are you a former smoker? The lawyers at Teen Malone are bringing cases against Big Tobacco to hold them accountable for their wrongdoings. If you or a loved one have recently been diagnosed with a smoking-related illness, such as bladder cancer, throat cancer, lung cancer, or COPD, please call 1-888-SMOKE-18 to learn more. That's 1-888-SMOKE-18. There's no cost to speak with us.
Hey, it's John Carney once again, popping in to talk Allen Roofing. Sure, we've talked about replacing your roof or doing your siding or your gutter, tuck pointing, stuff like that. But here's something we don't get into much. They are hiring. Think about this. A new job, a new trade, even if you don't have experience, they are also training people. If you've already been in the home improvement business, they can advance your career. The compensation is competitive. There's great benefits, retirement programs. This is a rare opportunity. So yeah, back to home improvement. If you need your roof taken care of, done. Siding, tuck pointing, gutters, done. But a career also available to you right now. It only makes sense to use a company that's been in business for half a century. Visit aroofing.net/KTRS to get a free assessment of what you need or apply for a job and join a great team at Allen Roofing.
You're ready for the big Mizzou game party. Chips, dips, appetizers, and Pinckney Bend Distillery Premium Spirits. Premium spirits made by passionate people, one small batch at a time. No wonder Pinckney Bend Distillery has won so many international awards. Ask for it by name and pick it up wherever you shop. Keep your spirits up, Tigers fans, with spirits from Pinckney Bend Distillery.
Are you tired of your outdated bathroom? Do you need safety upgrades or easier access to your shower? Whether you need a tub-to-shower conversion, walk-in tub, or full bathroom remodel, Michael's Bath specializes in transforming ordinary bathrooms into your own personal oasis. And in most cases, they're 35 to 50% less than the competition. Michael's Bath is a family-owned company with no gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They offer 0% financing and work with the VA. Call Michael's Baths at 636-775-0800 for a free consultation. Online at michaelsbaths.com. They'll help you design the bathroom of your dreams.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
It's 9:51 here on the Big 550 KTRS. We've got about 8 minutes left of this hour show. Then we'll want to go into hour number 2, as I like to call it, the hour of power.
Just zipping right through this first hour, and we've got some text questions on the line, and our next texter writes, what is a beneficiary IRA and how do they work?
Oh, so this texter must have heard us mentioning the beneficiary IRAs in our last segment. So a beneficiary IRA is created when you inherit either traditional or Roth IRA assets from an individual that was not your spouse.
Correct, and you have 10 years to liquidate that account. Now, if the person you're inheriting it from is already on an RMD schedule, well, in addition to inheriting the IRA, you've also inherited their minimum RMD schedule. So that will be the floor of what you have to take out every month with
year.
it. Yeah, exactly, with the caveat of it being emptied in 10 years. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Also, Roth beneficiary IRAs also need to be liquidated within 10 years, but they're not taxable.
You just stole our next texter.
Oh.
Right after that wrote, how is inheriting a Roth IRA different from inheriting a traditional? Taxes. That is the only real difference. You still have to empty those accounts out in 10 years. One is taxable. Your traditional IRA, your Roth IRA is not taxable at all.
I had an interesting question from an individual that did inherit a Roth IRA, and their main question was, I don't need the money right now, but why should I leave it in the Roth over the next 10 years if I'm going to have to pull it all out anyway? And there's no taxes on it, so you're not impacting your tax bracket here, but why would you hold it inside of your Roth?
Maybe you really like the underlying investments that the Roth is invested in. You want to continue to let it grow. I mean, if you have 10 years to pull it out, why not let it grow for 10 years? And you're pulling it out tax-free anyway. So I would try and keep, me personally, if I didn't need the money, I would try and keep it in the best environment for its growth.
Nice.
I mean, that's how I look at it.
Yeah, that's very well put. I mean, again, if it ain't broke, this is one of those things. If it's not broke, you don't have to fix it. And the IRS hasn't come out with guidelines specifically to Roth IRAs because, as we know, Roth doesn't require a minimum distribution amount in normal circumstances, which is good. So one of the many discussions that we're having with clients, and again, I think I've had this one 3 times this week, which is, what do I do with the money? I knew I need to take these required minimum distributions. I know what the floor is because I inherited this probably from a parent or maybe an uncle or an aunt. How do I use these? How do I minimize the income tax impact on these if that's something I want to do? And, you know, with Roth, with our last caller here, or our last texter here with the Roth, you know, the big deal here is that the IRS doesn't look at these IRAs that you've inherited as yours. They look at them as the assets of the person that you're inheriting them from, but not having paid the taxes on them. So we can't directly combine those into your individual retirement accounts, or if you have a Roth IRA account. So just something to consider.
We've got lots of texts on deck.
Yeah, it's really
heating up.
Floodgates have opened. And our next texter writes, I'm 34. My Roth 401k at work is $18,000, and I work on commission only. And since interest rates are high, my income at times is 0. I need to take all my Roth out. I know the penalties, but the financial company at work refuses to let me make a complete withdrawal to pay rent, car payment, etc. Can they do that? ?
Well, the answer to that is they can, but they really won't, because what happens is one option that you haven't thought about here is that, and you may want to check with your plan administrator, is a loan. The IRS does permit you to borrow up to 50%, up to $50,000 of your individual or your 401k account, whether it's Roth or traditional, and you can do that tax-free. As long as you repay that money back over a 5-year period, and generally that's also done through payroll deduction.
Also, the other nice thing is if you do take the loan, then you won't be paying that penalty that you will incur because you're under 59 and a half.
Because we're talking about, again, a loan versus a taxable distribution.
And I would say that you just want to take a look at if you truly need the full $18,000, and you might want to take a look at your plan document, which they are required to provide, and they'll let you know what the distribution allowances are. So it could be that they won't let you take the full amount out at one time, but they might let you take it out over a certain period of time.
And I would only add to this that if you do make this distribution, whether it's a taxable one or a loan, this really should prompt you to think a little bit about, and it hasn't been easy. It isn't easy to do if you're a commissioned salesperson, about cash flow planning. You know, how much of this should I be in a 401k plan? Should I be participating greater than possibly what the employer matching contributions are? Shouldn't I really be establishing that emergency fund, which frankly could be a potential future consumption fund for you, so that you don't have to go through these issues in the future?
Great.
Okay, our next texter writes, I did a Roth conversion and have paid the quarterly taxes, 3 so far. If I want to do another conversion in November or December, do I pay the taxes by January 15th in one large check and won't be able to break it up into 4 checks? Right?
That is correct, because if you're doing the conversion in 2023, even if you do it at the end of the year, you're going to be doing it for 2023 taxes, so you'll need to have those. You'll want to have those paid, or you'll owe them in April.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm not gonna.
He's already made the decision to do the conversion. He's just asking about taxes.
But I was waiting for him to jump in on that one.
I'm just trying to protect the texter from any undue bullying.
It's the who, what, where's, and whys, especially if you're somebody that's actively at work. Why throw more fuel onto the fire if you're bent on doing Roth conversions, doing them after the time you retire certainly make more sense because the amount of taxable income that you're going to have is going to be reduced. But what isn't reduced
go ahead, Dad.
Is that we've got another hour of our show that's coming up just after these messages. So do us a favor, don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with some more straight talk on retirement here on the Big 550 KTRS after.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Woo! Hour number 2. Straight Talk on Retirement here on the Big 550 KTRS. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
And I'm Rob Markham, your fixed annuities and life insurance specialist.
And we are willing, waiting, and wanting to answer your questions at 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the Heating Up KTRS text line.
That's right. And as customary, we're going to kick off hour number 2 of Straight Talk on Retirement with smart choices about your health care, which is sponsored this week and every single week by our very good friends at Aetna and Anthem of Missouri. If you have any health care related topic questions, please text us 84126 from the text line or give us a call 314-931-5877. But while we're waiting for your questions, let's talk about a question that Mary had this week.
Yes, and Mary called and said that when she went to the pharmacy in August, they told her she was going to have to pay $150 for her prescription Restasis, which normally has a $47 copay. She wanted to know why this happened, if there was a mistake from the pharmacy, if there was something if this was something temporary or permanent, and if she could ever avoid this.
This is a question that we receive relatively frequently, and I think it was based on a longer conversation we had last week about the unfortunate cost of prescription drugs on Medicare. That's one of the places that Medicare can sometimes fall short to other health insurance is the cost of prescriptions. As many people know, they've been doing quite a few things to attempt to start limiting expenses for individuals on Medicare with their pharmacy expenses, for example, adding a $35 copay only for insulin, attempting to cap out costs for individuals with other prescriptions. A lot of those things are in the works. But for the moment, what we live with is called the donut hole or the gap. So when the Bush administration added prescription drug coverage back in 2006, they kind of just threw it on top of Medicare. They didn't actually integrate it. So what's happened is, unlike insurance that isn't Medicare, so individual health insurance, group health insurance through your employer, retiree coverage through unions, things like that, Medicare coverage is tiered in 2 ways. It's tiered in the way that everyone is used to, which is based on the prescription you are taking. Tier 1 is usually preferred generics. And for many individuals on Medicare, you're going to pay $0 copays to fill those generic prescriptions. Tier 2 is non-preferred generics. That usually comes in with a $5 to $10 copay maybe. Tier 3 is preferred brand name prescriptions. So those are things like Restasis, Eliquis, Synthroid, which is the brand name of levothyroxine, which many women over the age of 50 utilize. So some of the more popular prescriptions to give people an idea. And the 4th tier is non-preferred brands, which can be relatively expensive. Those are the newer medications, injectables. And then there's also a tier 5, which every single prescription drug plan has. It's the Medicare tier. So that's prescriptions that aren't normally covered under Medicare, but are part of a therapeutic area that isn't covered under the other 4 tiers. So they're required by law to provide it to individuals that need it. So you can see that now that's the normal tier that most people are used to, what prescription you're taking, where it falls. Medicare has a second-tiered system, which is how you pay for your medications. So for most prescription drug plans, the deductible phase of the coverage is waived. However, for some individuals, you have a deductible. It's about $325. That means every time you go to fill your meds, until you hit $325, you're going to pay whatever the insurance rate is for that prescription that you're filling. Once you get past the deductible, you go into what everyone's used to, the copay phase of your coverage. After $325 and up to $4,660, you pay copays. So that's what we were talking about: 0 for your generics, 5 to 10 for non-preferred generics, and then 47 and above for tier 3 and 4 prescriptions. Once you hit $4,660 of expenses, you leave the copay phase and you go into what's called co-insurance. That means you're going to pay a percentage of the retail value of the prescription. It's about 25%.
So you're paying 25% of what the pharmacy gets charged?
Essentially, exactly. I like to say what it costs the insurance company to provide the prescription to you. So if you think about it as the insurance company is buying the prescription from the pharmaceutical company and selling it to you, they're passing on the retail cost to you when you've left the copay phase of your coverage. That's called that's called the donut hole. Once you've reached about 7,700 of expenses, you go into what's called the catastrophic phase of your coverage, which means you're going to have reduced copays and coinsurance. It's usually between $1 and $9 that you pay. So you have two different tiers that you have to follow with Medicare coverage. The nice thing about Medicare is whenever you enroll in a plan, a Medicare Advantage plan or a prescription drug plan that stands alone with a Medicare supplement, the prescription drug company that you've elected will send you updates as to how far you are in the process, how much money you've spent over the course of the year on your prescriptions, so you can anticipate where you are in terms of the donut hole. Or if you work with someone like Frank, our Medicare specialist in the office, he'll be able to lay out for you every single month what your prescriptions are going to cost based on a normal fill. So if our process is that we ask for your prescriptions and your physicians before you sit down with Frank to discuss Medicare coverage. If you fill the prescriptions that you've listed on a normal basis the way that you've listed them on your questionnaire, Frank will be able to tell you throughout the course of the year what it's going to cost every time you go to the pharmacy. Unfortunately, Mary didn't have this information on the front end, so what it sounds like to me is that Mary was on a prescription drug plan where her Restasis cost $47 a month per month. She unfortunately reached the donut hole because Restasis is a tier 3 medication, so it can be relatively pricey. And what that means is that now she is in the donut hole phase of her coverage where she has this $150 copay. That's going to last until she gets to the catastrophic phase of her coverage. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot that can be done about this at the moment because this is built into every single Medicare prescription drug policy available because these rules emanate from Medicare. Some insurance companies will provide you with some additional protection when you reach the donut hole. So if you're someone that's on tier 3 or 4 medications or even a tier 5 medication, definitely want to focus in on, are there any ways that you can cost cut with your other medications? So for example, if Mary was on a variety of other medications, tier 2, tier 3, a couple of other tier 3s, even if Restasis is the med that pushed her into the donut hole, the price of all the other meds is going to go up as well. There are some prescription drug companies that'll say, we'll keep those other meds at the original copay prices for you and only elevate the medication that pushed you into the donut hole. That would be the main way that you would be able to protect yourself at this particular point from some additional expenses.
I guess other that, or you'd have to consult with your physician to determine whether there are less cost-expensive alternatives that are available to you.
Absolutely, but because we are not physicians, we're simply here to help you secure the coverage to pay for what the physicians recommend. There's definitely an opportunity for you to take a look and see if there's a generic alternative that you can use. And thank you for bringing this up, Dad. If you are someone that's tried a generic alternative in the past and it hasn't worked, you can use that information when you enroll in Medicare to receive what's called a tier exception. So if I use the example again of Synthroid versus levothyroxine, Synthroid is a tier 3 medication, whereas levothyroxine is a tier 1 medication. If you've tried levothyroxine in the past, it did not work for you, and you have a physician's documentation therein, the insurance company, through step therapy, will offer you the Synthroid at the price of the levothyroxine. Now, that doesn't impact the rest of your medications. If you end up in the donut hole, you're still going to pay. But they will reduce the cost for the short term for you. So there are some limitations as to step therapy.
When you enter the donut hole, you begin it at 4,600, 4,660. When you're paying the 25%, are they applying the entire price, not just your 25% that you paid, the entire retail price of the prescription to get you out of that donut hole?
Yes, and they were also applying the retail cost to get you to the donut hole. So, I mean, most people probably
It's quicker to it and quicker out of it.
Right, most people probably did the math. How did you pay $47 a month for the first 8 months of the year, and that equaled $4,600? That's not math. Even my math. What the insurance company is doing is applying the retail cost for them to provide the medication to you, like we talked about, towards these numbers. It is not what you pay when you go into the pharmacy. Now, that is added in because you're paying a portion of the retail value of the prescription, but it is not the primary driver of what pushes you into the donut hole.
And we have a texter that just a quick comment says Restasis comes in other forms and also generic, which is great news.
Well, that is great news. So that means that for Mary, if she has tried the generics or she's tried the other alternatives, she can apply for that step therapy exception and receive apply for step therapy and receive a tier exception based on having used other medications in the past. So that's one of the main ways that we could help modify that. But, you know, unfortunately, sometimes people don't want to go through that because they finally found something that works. So I've also found that if people are prepared for what they're going to spend, it's not as much of a shock. If Mary knew it was going to be $150 in August, you know, she probably would have been a little bit more prepared, which is why I think it's great to work with someone like Frank, because he can really lay everything out for you and there won't be any surprises when it's time to go fill your meds. Or when you go in to see the physician and they tell you that you have a copay, you won't be shocked at whatever that price happens to be.
Yeah, knowing before you go and sitting down with someone like Frank is paramount, so you don't, you know, end up at the pharmacy and get stuck with a bill that you didn't see coming.
Right. That's also the other value, which is if you're at the pharmacy and you're unsure, you can always give our office a call, 314-863-0008. It's always good to know on the front end before you fork over the cash and not sure if you're ever going to get it back or not, that things are set up the way they're supposed to.
Oh, and that walk back out to your car, and then you're just like shaking your head at just, you know, what just transpired. Are you going crazy? Are you not remembering things right? Like,
what
how
did
could
they
this
put
be?
in these eye drops? Gold?
Right. And we've got a couple of Medicare-related text questions.
Okay.
And our first texter writes, I will be retiring at the beginning of the year and joining Medicare. I currently take Eliquis, which I pay nothing for right now, through a manufacturer discount. I heard that when I join Medicare, I can no longer receive the manufacturer discount. My question is, do you know how much Eliquis will cost me once I lose my manufacturer discount?
You know, this is one of the sadder parts about Medicare, which is so the pharmaceutical companies do offer manufacturer discounts, as this texter mentioned. However, they only offer them to people on private coverage. Medicare, because it's government program, is considered public coverage, even if you've coupled it, which everyone should, with some sort of private coverage to fill those gaps that Medicare does not cover. You're no longer eligible for those discounts. So it won't be free. Eliquis is a tier 3 medication, just like Restasis that we talked about with Mary. And so you'll be paying about $47 a month in copays. But unfortunately, the retail value of Restasis is about Eliquis is about $600, which means you're going to pay 25% of that if you were to reach the donut hole. Which, if you're only on Eliquis, you might not, because you only get you would right at the end of the year, towards October.
I'm just doing the math on how many times you'd have to re-up
So
that at $600 to get you
10
out.
times is $6,000, so it's
Once you
probably
enter
being
the donut hole at 4,600, 4,660 to get you past 77, probably wouldn't be that
No,
many.
so you'll probably be in Mary's boat, which means in August when you go fill your medication next year, you're going to not pay 47, you're going to pay 180 or so.
Right. No, it's just
25%.
really great that they apply the entire retail price to, move you right on out of that. So that's that, because I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, 25%, that's only $150. She'll be in there forever. But
She'll be in there forever.
Right, and then I'm doing, I'm like, wait, no, they apply the entire retail price, so that's great.
Yep.
And our next Medicare texter writes, I have dental with Delta. Can I keep my dental plan, and Medicare will pick up after a Delta Dental?
Yes. You can double dip with your dental coverage. So depending upon what type of Medicare you select to supplement Medicare, so if you choose a supplement, most likely you're not going to have dental coupled with it because the supplements or Medigap policies don't add dental in for you. So keeping the Delta Dental will essentially serve as your dental coverage. If you select a Medicare Advantage plan, you can run through your Medicare Advantage allotment of dental, which could be upwards of $2,000 or $3,000 depending upon which plan you choose, and then you can dip into your Delta Dental coverage. For some individuals, they decide they might not need to pay the additional premium for for their standalone dental coverage once they've coupled their Medicare with a Medicare Advantage plan, because you're receiving that dental benefit at no additional cost to you. So it really just comes down to how much dental coverage you want, and are you willing, and do you really want to pay for the extra?
Is my thinking correct if you do elect a Medicare Advantage plan, that because you're not paying the premiums associated with a supplemental plan under original Medicare, that you're kind of like you can segue some of that money that you would have paid in premium towards additional drug costs if you should end up in the donut hole? Is that a correct way of like kind of strategizing or looking at how you should elect Medicare?
I think that's a really excellent way to look at it, because there are a lot of benefits to Medicare that will help you cost save. But if you happen to be in a position, unfortunately, where some of your medications are much pricier than you are used to, it might be a great exercise to go through, hey, this is how much I'm saving every year. Especially if you've elected a Medicare Advantage plan, premium savings is not the only place that you are going to find money back into your pocket. These Medicare Advantage plans, like we just mentioned, offer dental. They also offer vision. They offer hearing aid benefits that Medicare doesn't cover. They also offer over-the-counter benefits, so help you pay for things like tissues, allergy medication, pain medication like Tylenol, ibuprofen, things that you would find in the pharmacy section of a Walgreens or a CVS, but not behind the counter. So even things like, I've seen surgical gloves, blood pressure cuffs, all kinds of things. They're going to give you a monthly allowance or a quarterly allowance for that as well. The gym membership, I don't know if I mentioned that. So these are all ways that you could potentially save quite a bit of money through using a Medicare Advantage plan. What's the trade-off, unfortunately, in the prescription drug cost? For our last texter, they're going to go from $0 a month for their Eliquis to $47 a month, but they might be getting $25 or more a month in over-the-counter medication, in over-the-counter cost savings, so we can reduce that $47 by $25 and so on.
It just highlights for me the importance of sitting down with someone like you or Frank to really walk through all these options and the different strategies that you're going to employ to try and bring those cost-saving measures to, the absolute zenith of what they could be.
Zenith, that's a great word. Well, yeah, sometimes, unfortunately, we can't prevent what things cost, but maybe we can make you feel a little bit better about it.
And like what you said, I mean, at least when my next trip in, it's going to cost a little bit more, or, I'm going to get hit with a bill, but at least you're not blindsided by it. I mean, I think a lot of times when you get blindsided, it almost feels like 10 times worse. It's not the money per se, although that...
It is.
Right. But when you didn't know that you were going to have to reach in your pocket for more bills than you anticipated, that's the kind of like, gee whiz, what's going on here? So,
gee willikers,
right,
Batman.
Exactly. And with that, should we take our first break of the hour?
Let's take our first break, and when we get back, we have a few more text questions to get to.
So don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
Now is when Coventry turns confusion into clarity. Coventry Healthcare has got a simple approach to care. By listening to their members, Coventry can make plans that work harder for you and your budget. The result? They offer great service and clear costs. If you're looking for a plan that's more about you, give them a call at 1-855-338-9551, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's 1-855-338-9551. Now is the time to call Coventry Healthcare.
What if I told you that with one click to Wholesale Siding Depot, that's WSDepot.com, you can view the best selection of windows, doors, siding, and decking products that are durable, up-to-date, and energy-saving that will increase your home's value and comfort. All at wholesale pricing to save your hard-earned money. My grandson Elijah says,
Are you kidding me?
My name is Julius Krasanik, celebrating 51 years in this industry. Our local and family business is Wholesale Siding Depot. Please visit our website at WSDepot.com. That's WSDepot.com for name brand windows from Anderson and Viwinco, CertainTeed composite and vinyl siding, Pro-V and Masonite doors, decking from Mazak, Envision, Fortress, and Trex. We also offer a free contractor referral service to take care of your installation needs. Keep it local and professional. Please visit WSDepot.com. That's WSDepot.com.
Now is when a small change can make a big difference. If you're not happy with your current Medicare coverage, take a look at Coventry Healthcare. They have a wide range of plans with great service and clear costs, including medical and drug coverage in one simple plan. Just call 1-855-338-9551, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. That's 1-855-338-9551. Now's the time to call Coventry Healthcare.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
1026 here on the Big 550 KTRS, hour number 2, just about halfway done. We're here to answer your questions. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. Before we take our text questions, I do want to remind folks, as you can tell, that helping clients plan for Medicare and their healthcare costs is an extremely important and really crucial component to retirement income planning, and that's why we talk about it every day. And
That's right.
Fortunately, all of our Medicare clients are folks like you. They're our listeners. On average, we're helping over 300 folks a year to enroll in Medicare, and that doesn't include the thousands that we actually have done over the last 10 years. So it's very cool. It's fun. And, babe, I was going to say we're within about 30 days, just outside of 30 days for open enrollment for next year. What's going to happen for our current clients and those folks that are in the middle?
So for everyone that has worked with our office in the past, be it myself or with Frank Ellis, our Medicare coach, you're going to get an email from us on October 1st, no sooner, that outlines what your current plan looks like versus what it's going to look like in 2024. That'll prompt you to either say, hey, I'm good, and your plan will automatically renew, no effort on your part, or hey, I want to see what else is out there, or I would just like a review. So you'll give our office a call and chat with Kelly, our office manager, at 314-863-0008, or you'll just reply to the email we send out. We'll request an updated medical questionnaire, or we'll send your old medical questionnaire back to say, hey, is anything new? And then we'll get you a day and time set up to either see Frank in the office or chat with him over the phone or by Zoom between October 1st and December 7th. October 15th is really when open enrollment begins, but October 1st is when we can start discussing the new plans. I've had a few great chats with Frank over the last couple of weeks as the insurance companies are rolling out the new plan designs to all of us in anticipation of open enrollment. And I can say that there are some really cool new benefits coming up. So definitely be on the lookout for your plan booklets. If you work with us, be on the lookout for your email. If you'd like to work with us, people are already calling in to schedule their time after October 1st. so you can be one of the lucky ones as well. Again, give our office a call, 314-863-0008, or you can always go to our website, jblfinancial.com. Just click on that Contact Us section, request a Medicare coaching session during open enrollment, and we'll make sure that you get a time that works for you.
And I think what's important here also is that, open enrollment is for folks that are already enrolled in Medicare. Decision about when you have to enroll in Medicare, we can certainly assist you in doing that.
Every single day.
And we are doing that every single day, which is fun. So Medicare is just not about open enrollment. Even you may get sick of seeing Joe Willie Namath and other folks on television.
I believe that those commercials are going to be drastically reduced based on some less than above board practices in the past. They've really started to crack down on the Medicare advertising. So they'll probably be a lot more boring, but still just as many of them.
So we're not going to get too many more phone calls. Well, Joe Namath said.
Right. Joe Namath said I could get my Medicare Part B for free.
That's what he told me. And
I
now
wish
I'm
he
here
had
to
to
collect.
take responsibility for these things.
Well, let's take responsibility for some of those texts that we're waiting on. And again, our text line is open, 84126 or 314-931-5877. We're willing, waiting, and Eric is wanting to answer your questions and get you on the phone. So give us a call today.
And our next texter is all teed up, and he writes, what's involved with converting a traditional 401k into a Roth? I saw a YouTube video, and they talked about backdoor ways of doing this that could mitigate or possibly eliminate some of the tax liabilities. Is it possible to do this?
No.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to jump the gun. No. So, Roth convert. Dad, I'll start with this, and then I'm sure you'll have a tirade to go on in just mere seconds. Here, I'll let you think it out while I answer the technical side of this. So, a Roth conversion can happen immediately, no matter how you do it. You're just going to transfer. If you're currently working, and over the age of 50, you can do what's called an in-service distribution. Instead of rolling it into a traditional IRA where you would have no taxes, you'll direct it into a Roth, and you will pay taxes on the full amount that you've moved from your traditional pre-tax 401k to your new Roth account, because that is a taxable event versus moving from a pre-tax account to a pre-tax account. If you are someone that is looking to do a Roth conversions or contributions and you're over the income limit, that is what this YouTube video is referring to. It's called a backdoor Roth. You can only do that using the the IRA contribution limits for the year. So if you're under the age of 50, $6,500. If you're over the age of 50, it's $7,500. You would move IRA assets into an individual IRA account and then immediately convert them into a Roth, because you can't make a direct Roth contribution. But anytime that you are converting pre-tax money to after-tax money, you are going to have a taxable event.
And again, I think this backdoor Roth is really referring to making an IRA contribution to a non-deductible IRA account. What the IRS says is that if you do a Roth conversion, you have to use a pro-rata share of non-deductible money to deductible money. So, interesting concept. The strategy is becoming more and more difficult to do as folks' individual retirement accounts grow. And I would certainly suggest that if you're going to consider doing a Roth conversion, for whatever maniacal reason that you have.
Maniacal.
That's great.
You just slip that in.
Tax inefficient reason that you want to do a Roth IRA conversion, that you wait till
you're
your
retired.
Income drops.
Yes.
You're retired. You wait till your income drops, and then if you want to, just shoot the toes off your feet one at a time. No reason to shoot your whole foot off at one time. Stage it over a period of time if that's something that you want to do.
Right, you could pay quarterly withholdings.
Okay, so our clients appreciate the conversation that they're going to have with me or Aaron when we do this. But we do we do have clients that have plugged themselves into this Kool-Aid machine, and we certainly assist them in doing that. We're not going to say that they don't. I mean,
there are some situations where it's not the worst thing in the world that's ever happened.
Right, but yes, but I'm sorry.
Any right now.
No, I don't think that, when you violate rule number 1, which is never pay taxes on money you're not consuming, it doesn't make sense. And I'm sure Rob's going to talk about the fact that, you have to do, well, I'll let you do this, Rob. You have to make these contributions. At least you have to pay the tax out of your pocket. If you're not doing the full conversion, loss of income, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, there's so many. The taxes are going to be paid. And like you said, why would you pay taxes on money you're not consuming? That's number one. Number two, being that the government is going to get their money one way or the other, now it just becomes a question of what is the most efficient way of paying these. And I would argue, and many have, is we would use a different vehicle rather than liquidating the account and paying the taxes. There are other alternatives to that, life insurance being one of them. It's equivalent of paying pennies on the dollar rather than nickels, dimes, and quarters. And, in addition to the taxes that you've lost immediately, that's gone right off the top. You've also lost all the growth associated with paying those taxes. So using a nice round number, if you say you converted $100,000 and right off the top, 30% was gone in taxes. So now you're converting 70. But what you're leaving out is the growth of that $30,000 would have had over, say, a 5 or a 10-year period. So you can quickly see, even using very, very small assumption rates, maybe 4%, 5%, a $30,000 tax bill could balloon to almost 50 when you take into account the loss of associated growth with paying those taxes. So it's really it's a money pit, and why you would want to pay, again, taxes on money that you're not directly consuming. I'd love to know who started this idea. I think it was the IRS, the more I think about it. But, yeah, the idea is certainly out there, and, there are ways of doing this efficiently that don't involve paying taxes, is, I guess, the point that Roundabout trying to make.
I mean, not to be the contrarian here, because the two of you are just so committed to this anti-Roth conversion. I would just say that there are situations where what if an individual is registering no taxable income for the year? I mean, there are some situations in which it's possible that a Roth conversion might be okay. So I think this is another reason why sitting down with a professional to have this conversation about what all of the ramifications are of doing these Roth conversions, and are you really getting to the place that you want to go in the most efficient way, is a really important aspect of working with the coach.
The only thing I would add to this, and again, it isn't a negative per se, but which I know would surprise
It's maniacal. You. It's not a negative.
No. Most folks are drawn to the concept of a Roth conversion because someone or somewhere has put out the notion that required minimum distributions are going to bury you in taxes. And we know that at the time that someone is subject to taking required minimum distributions, the actual rate that they have to withdraw from their IRA is it starts at 4%.
Which most people are already taking.
Well, not only that, but also
honking for approval.
They agree.
That trash man is angry.
Well, when you don't pull all the way up on the curb.
Right. If you fill the bin too much, it's overflowing. People get upset.
Well, and again, I'm sorry. I tried to block that out as much as I can. What happens there is that with this, with this concept of pulling 4%, compare that rate and then the taxation on that rate. So use an example. Let's just say that we had someone that had an IRA of $1 million. And their concept was, I think that I want to, over a period of years, convert this to a Roth. Well, generally, even if they're in their lowest tax bracket, okay, earning under $90,000 a year, if we were to add 20, 30, 40, 50,000, we're looking at a 20% effective tax rate. 20% tax rate compared to 4% withdrawal rate.
Right, and adding 40,000 on top of 89,000 is only going to put you in about the 15.
Exactly. So again, it doesn't make a lot of sense, maybe. Except, I mean, again, the one thing that, or at least the one reason that I would think would be paramount if I was going to do this, which of course I will never do, babe, sorry, is that you want to pass these assets on, if you can, income tax free to the people that you love. I.e., so what you're doing is you're paying the taxes for them.
That's okay. We're going to sit down with Rob and figure out these less expensive ways to, mitigate my tax liability for you.
Absolutely. I know we have an example. I know that we have a story to talk about a little bit later if we do have time in the show to do that about maybe about Roth conversions.
Maybe.
But I think we probably should take our break, right?
Well, you know what? Let's hit this one final text question, then we'll take our last break of the second hour.
Just zipping through. And our next texter writes, I am 61, my wife is 59. We have $5 million in retirement savings plus other savings. Can we retire comfortably this year? Well, it's kind of hard to say without knowing anything.
We don't know how much you're spending every month. We know you're both under Social Security eligibility at this point.
We do.
We don't know if they have pensions.
We don't. But
it sounds like they probably don't have children.
But I would say that the shorthand answer to this question, which please don't hold us responsible for here, is if we're using a prudent rate of withdrawal that you mentioned before, 4%.
4%, that should be about $200,000.
So if you can live off of a gross amount, because the gross amount is $200,000, you're going to have to deduct taxes for that, which will be about the 30% tax rate. So if you can live off $140,000 a year until you get to Social Security, then we would say
there would be some
likely,
additional
yes.
game planning insofar as Medicare, because they're both not Medicare eligible.
Yeah, we're going to have to add some expense for health insurance.
So, I mean, it's kind of hard to say in the vacuum of not, putting anything up on the whiteboard to really get a full picture, but that is a sizable amount in retirement savings, and you say you have other savings, so it sounds like you'd be comfortable, but it's very
comfortable subjective, right?
Right. We need it's a comfortable incomplete because we just don't know enough about your full financial picture to give you a solid recommendation one way or the other.
I agree. Dad, did you have anything to add?
No, I was just trying to cover up my microphone because some idiot keeps letting their alarm off in the par 3 course, and that's why you keep getting all these beeps.
Disturbing the golfers, that's like a cardinal sin.
Yeah, the car theft is up like exponentially. People got to make sure those alarms work.
It is the first of the month.
Life is good. So let's take our last break of the hour. When we come back, we want to take your phone calls at 314-931-5877 and more interesting and provocative texts at 84126 from the KTRS text line. So don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Now is when a small change can make a big difference. If you're not happy with your current Medicare coverage, take a look at Coventry Healthcare. They have a wide range of plans with great service and clear costs, including medical and drug coverage in one simple plan. Just call 1-855-338-9551, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. That's 1-855-338-9551. Now's the time to call Coventry Healthcare.
Hey, this is Chris Kerber, and let's go Blues. On Friday, September 15th, the Cardinals host the Phillies, and that night, 25,000 fans 16 and older will take home a Cardinals hockey sweater, courtesy of Valley Sports Midwest. Upgrade your experience with a special Blues Night themed ticket and guarantee yourself a Cardinals and Blues inspired quarter zip windbreaker. That's Friday, September 15th. Join us at the ballpark with the Cardinals as we celebrate the face-off to a new hockey season. For tickets, visit cardinals.com/promotions.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy! And a home run by the Wizard! This is Ozzie Smith. On Saturday, September 16th, the Cards host the Phillies, and that day, 25,000 fans ages 16 and older will take home a stadium-exclusive bobblehead of me dressed as the Wizard, courtesy of Coca-Cola and Deerbergs. This unique bobblehead design is a nod to the historic promotional wall poster of me from the late 1980s. That's Saturday, September 16th. For details or tickets, visit cardinals.com/promotions.
If you're turning 65 this year, you face one of the most critical choices for your retirement game plan, enrolling in Medicare Part B and choosing your Medicare supplement. I will help you safely navigate this process and find the health insurance plan that best works with your new Medicare coverage. Getting started is easy. Call me at 314-863-0008, 314-863-0008 to arrange for a free health insurance coaching session, or email me at aaron@jblfinancial.com.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff Lapidus.
10:44 on the Big 550 KTRS. We've got about 15 minutes left. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone lines are open, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
And our next texter writes, I am turning 65 in November and will be leaving my company's health care plan. Does it make more sense to elect COBRA coverage after I leave, or should I enroll in Medicare? You should enroll in Medicare, I think.
That's a great answer. Here's why. You're technically not eligible for COBRA. COBRA is for individuals that don't have access to other qualified coverage. Medicare is considered qualified coverage. So when you turn 65 in November and you retire, if you are retiring within the month of November, you can have your Medicare coverage start December 1st. Most likely it's going to be less expensive than what the COBRA premium will be for your coverage, and the benefits will hopefully be equally, if not more robust for you. The reason that you don't want to enroll in COBRA is because if you are eligible for Medicare, Medicare does not consider COBRA to be as good or better than itself, which is Medicare's requirement for waiving any penalties that would be assessed against you for not enrolling in a timely fashion. So, losing your group health insurance benefits through your employer is a qualifying event that will give you a special election into your Medicare benefits. If you do not utilize your special election, then you're going to be locked into Medicare Part B open enrollment. That's different than open enrollment for individuals that are already on Medicare looking at their Medicare Advantage and prescription drug plans. Medicare Part B open enrollment begins January 1st and runs through March 31st. But your benefits don't begin until July 1st. So what would happen... Oh, that
Love
was
the sound effect.
that was an intentional one, not someone in the...
Sounded like a battleship when you scored a direct hit. Like,
I've been practicing that one, thank you. But what you're really talking about is the true shoot yourself in the foot. Not only did you delay your Medicare benefits become available, but you also triggered the lifetime penalty, right, babe?
That's right. So there's going to be a couple penalties assessed against you if you don't enroll in Medicare during your special election. The first being there is a 10% Part B premium increase on the annualized Medicare Part B premium. That is lifetime, unfortunately, if you miss your Part B enrollment.
And isn't there a prescription drug penalty as well?
There is. It is 1% of the annual average standalone prescription drug plan for every month that you did not elect your benefits that you were eligible for them.
So if you, in theory, if you went 24 months with that's 24% increase on your prescription drug premium?
That is correct.
Ouch.
And that is a lifetime penalty as well, unfortunately. So it never hurts to have a conversation with someone before you make these decisions. Some people might be thinking, why do they send me that COBRA notification if I'm not eligible for it?
Yeah, I was just thinking, you're almost setting these people up for failure, or like opening a hole for them to fall into potentially.
Well, there are competing interests here. The federal government says that if you are a COBRA eligible health insurance policy, that when individuals leave the plan, and are eligible for COBRA, you must send it to them.
So it's just a bureaucratic snafu where they're just automatically sending it to everyone. They're not.
Well, because it's not just they are eligible for COBRA. It's just what happens if you take it. It's not like you're not
right.
You're not going to have a penalty. And no one's coming to put you in the orange jumpsuit and take you to prison because you took COBRA benefits over Medicare benefits. You're just going to have all those penalties assessed against you. Your delayed enrollment into Medicare. You're probably going to be spending a little bit more. But it's not like your benefits won't be denied. If you have claims and you've taken COBRA instead of Medicare, those claims are still going to be paid. It's just what happens on the back end. So if you're retiring, it's a great inflection point for you to have a conversation about all these things. You're also going to have an opportunity, probably for the first time, to make a decision about your health care benefits as opposed to having it decided for you. So why not not only take a look at all of your options, but know what the best options potentially are.
Absolutely. And our next texter writes, I'm 52. I've been contributing an amount equal to my employer's match in my 401k, but I feel like I'm falling behind in my savings for retirement. Is there anything I can do? Well, you can make catch-up provisions, sir.
Not only can you make your catch-up since you're over the age of 50, but you can make the maximum 401k contribution. Most employers do not match the maximum contribution, so that says to me that you still probably have some room to make additional pre-tax, or if you have access to Roth 401k after-tax contributions.
Absolutely, and I believe the catch-up provisions now on 401ks are $30,000
total. So
right. So
your total contribution,
$22,500, and then you have an additional $7,500 you can throw into there. So there are definitely some options you're definitely going to want to explore if you feel like you're falling behind.
Well, and if you do have that feeling, this is really a perfect time for you, our texter, to visit with your financial advisor. If you don't have one, you might want to consider establishing relationships so that you can really have that question answered. Are you far behind? How much do you need to contribute to get back on track? And, it's surprising for many folks to find out that they're a lot farther along than they think.
Right.
And also, there may be other things that you can consider doing as a way to deal with improving your retirement situation, whether it's creating a strategy to liquidate debt, as one example. So meeting with a financial advisor would be a smart idea at this point. So talk to your person. If you don't have one, you know what you can do. Pick up the phone, give us a call, 314-863-0008, especially if you feel like you're within 5 years of retirement. Or send us an email. Go to our website and hit the Contact Us section at jblfinancial.com.
That's right.
Okay, and I think we've beat the text line down into compliance, so why don't we go into our next topic, our RMD coaching session with Tom.
RMD stands for Required Minimum Distribution, for those of you that didn't know.
And Tom is turning 73 in October of this year, and he's not taking distributions from his retirement accounts.
That's great.
Absolutely. After our recent discussion of the recent changes in the Secure Acts, he realizes he'll have to begin taking RMDs this year. His account breakdowns are as follows. He has $125,000 in a Roth IRA, $530,000 in a traditional IRA, and $210,000 in a prior employer's 401k.
Wow.
So I'm sure Tom's wondering which accounts will he need to make distributions from.
Well, luckily that $125,000 in the Roth you don't have to worry about. If you are the owner of the Roth, no required minimum distributions.
Which is great.
Yeah. That means it gets to continue to grow if you need it for some if you need it for some tax-free money for large purchases like we talked about, or that's great assets to pass along to beneficiaries that won't have taxes. However, like we talked about, will have to be liquidated from their beneficiary IRA account.
But at least they'll get to liquidate them at the 0% taxes.
Right.
His traditional IRA, we know he will have to take required minimum distribution that starts about 4%. And I'm thinking that he may also have to take a distribution from his prior employer 401k because he hasn't rolled it into an IRA and he isn't an active participant in that plan.
And also, it's super important that you contact your if you have left your 401k at your 401k, you did not do a rollover into a self-directed IRA account, be it with a bank or with an investment advisor representative like ourselves. Most 401k plans, when you are no longer an active participant and you are required to make required minimum distributions, require that you take the distribution from the 401k. So unlike when you have rolled all of your assets out of a 401k and maybe you have more than one IRA account for, whatever the reason may be. Maybe it's held with a fund company and then held with a bank. You have something in a CD. You get to take the aggregate required minimum distribution for the year and take it from whatever self-directed account that you'd like. However, if you're someone that worked all the way up until required minimum distribution age and then you retired, you haven't moved your 401k yet, or you're like Tom and he just hadn't moved the balance of his 401k after he retired, you have to take it from that account and then take the balance from your other accounts. So you don't have to take the full RMD from your 401k, but whatever that, so 4% of the $210,000 must come out of the 401k, and then you can move on to your other traditional retirement plan assets.
Yeah, and I think, and we've seen this in several situations where the 401k provider from that prior plan, they're going to kick the money out to you. They don't have a choice.
They force it right out.
Exactly, and the timing. So really, I think putting yourself in the best place to make those decisions really means it's time to roll that 401k.
Also, they're going to withhold the 20% in federal taxes, no questions asked. You might not be in the 20% tax bracket. So if you have made, that might be a reason why you want to move that money out of the 401k so you can control the taxation of the assets that are required to come out, in addition to the fact that 401k plans really are accumulation vehicles. They're not distribution vehicles. So I know Tom's next question was, well, how do I take this money? Do I take it monthly? Do I take it annually? Do I take it once every few months? Not only what are my choices, what's the best way to do it? With a 401k plan, you could be limited to a certain number of distributions per year, per month, per quarter. They could have fees associated with them as well. So in addition to being able to aggregate everything in one place, take the distribution the way you want with the taxes you want, those are some of the prime reasons why you might consider finally doing the rollover when you're required minimum distribution age if you haven't before then.
And he gets to choose how much, how often, and when he wants his distribution. So if he wants it all at once, if he wants it to match a certain bill or an obligation that he has, that's certainly possible as well.
Absolutely.
And it's not unusual either. For many of our clients, like Tom, who currently don't use these distributions to fund their monthly income needs, what we're typically doing is matching them up with maybe in October, November, December, when they're paying real estate taxes. We're sometimes funding their Christmas gifts, or even next year's vacation funds, or even in some cases helping with tuition payments for children or grandchildren. So lots of things to do. The nice part is you have the flexibility to make that choice.
And there are a few things that, since Tom wasn't in need of this income since he hadn't taken it in the past, and now he's got a new tax liability for making these distributions, there is at least one way that we can mitigate the taxes for Tom on his overall distribution, right?
Yes, there is. At 73, he can direct his IRA to make a charitable distribution for you, and this will reduce Tom's taxable RMD dollar for dollar. So, example, if church and other charities would receive $4,000, $4,000 would come directly off. He would not be taxed on that $4,000 as far as his distribution, so long as it went from custodian to charitable organization, not to Tom.
Right. So if we estimated his distribution was going to be about $22,000 for the year, if we subtract $4,000 from
now
that,
he's only taxed on 18.
But the IRS recognizes that the full 22
came out. Yes, absolutely.
So you've met the requirement. You've reduced the tax liability for yourself as well.
It's a 360 win. Everyone wins.
Everybody wins.
And what's fun is that this is really the discussions that we're having with clients, and hopefully you're having them with your advisors in January and February to determine how much has to be taken out, what's the best way of taking those monies out, and certainly it gives you an opportunity to not only do that, but also review the performance of your accounts, have your goals and objectives changed, etc. Ours hasn't, and we'd love to hear from you. If you're 55 and older, within 5 years of retirement, ready to retire, give us a call, 314-863-0008, or send us an email at jblfinancial.com. We'll see you next week.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.